Hello, my friends. Today I want to give you a presentation about the Mayas, a little bit about who they are and what their prophecies are. And here's one of them. It says, "Arise, all arise, not one nor two groups will be left behind. Together we will see once again the place from where we have come from." This is Don Alejandro Oshla. He is the leader of the Mayan community today, and I'm going to talk a lot about him today. But before that, let's remember a little bit about who are the Mayas and where they're living. Today, there's still a lot of Mayans living actually in Guatemala and a little bit in Belize and Mexico as well, in the Central Americas. And they have quite a history. So their history, the Mayans' history, go a couple of thousand years, and there are many different ideas about who they are, where they are coming from. Olmecs are their ancestors or not? They have a connection with the sun continent Lemuria or Mu. Like even here in Turkey, we have some similarities between Turkish language and Mayan language. Even the founder of Turkish Republic, Atatürk, talked about it, and he even created a little dictionary about it. So they're very old civilization. They're very spiritual. They have very spiritual roots. And according to themselves, if you ask them, their prophets came from the star system Pleiades. So, and their four prophets arrived to the world, and each one of them went to another direction. So, this is also one of the reasons in their ceremonies they worship and do invocation work, sorry, with the four directions. So, they are coming from the stars, basically, we would say, at least their prophets and their information, their knowledge, their culture it was very advanced before Columbus arrived. It was actually the highest pre-Columbian civilization. They have established written language, and also mathematics wise they were very advanced. So this is one of the codex, a very famous codex that you can see. Astronomy wise, they were very advanced as well. This is El Caracol in Chichen Itza, it's an observatory. And we knew that like they have perfect solar calendar, like 52-year cycle with 13 days of extra gap. Like every year would be 365 days, and every 52 years there would be a 13 days gap where it's a spiritual day, it's a special these 13 days have a special meaning. So if you divide 13 to 52, you will find 1.4 day, like, which is almost the same calculation as we have calculated today. So their astronomy was very strong. They calculated Venus cycles very well. They were very much aware of the moon cycles and the constellations and stars as well. So what happened? Of course, before the Spanish invasion, the famous Spanish invasion, they had a decline in their civilization as well. That was before, much before Columbus came, a couple of centuries ago, and they were already living in the post-classical era. The classical era was the famous high time for the Mayas, and a lot of food shortage was a main problem. They were living in big cities, and some agricultural problem or ecological problem resulted with huge famines, and they have to just leave their cities and just lost this high state of civilization. So when the Spanish came, there were still a lot of Mayan cities, but smaller. And we know that we can see the Yucatan Peninsula here. So when the Spanish came, of course, these cities like Tulum or Chichen Itza, Palenque, even Tikal, which is in Guatemala somewhere here, they were all almost on a flat surface. Like it's not, there are not many hills and just a little bit. This is a physical map. So this is all this Yucatan Peninsula was completely plain. So it was very easy for Spanish armies to just go to the cities and actually, unfortunately, burn their books, massacre them. Like also a lot of Mayans died because of some viruses that the Europeans brought. So this was the dramatic story. And what happened afterwards was, of course, they moved west. Nevertheless, many Mayans, when they heard about this catastrophic invasion, they ran away from these lands as much as they can. And of course, there were also already a lot of Mayan communities in these areas as well. But it became their homeland after the Spanish invasion, because these mountains are volcanic mountains in Guatemala, in western Guatemala. So they were so high, they are so high, like on average 3,000, 4,000 high hills they have. So, and as you see, it's loaded with mountains. It's a very high area. So when the Spanish army came, they couldn't really do much. So they have to just give up. And the Mayas have been living there, living with their traditions in this part of Guatemala in a very strong way since that time. Even in, like, if you go to Lake Atitlan, Quetzalcontenango, Chichicastenango, like these cities and these areas, or Antigua, of course, like you will see many Mayans living according to their ancestral traditions, dressed in the traditional way, living in the traditional way. So maybe this is new for many of you, because most people think the Mayans already diminished, they completely gone hundreds of years ago. It's not true. So, and they have many calendrical systems. According to some, they have 20 different calendars, like one calendar for agriculture, one calendar for cosmic prophecies, one calendar for individual cosmic time, which is the sacred calendar, the Tzolkin or Cholquij, according to the Quichua Maya. This is their most favorite calendar, most beloved calendar. They're doing ceremonies according to these days. Of course, probably you're aware, if you're watching, if you come across with my website, there's 20 day signs and 13 tones, and there's a combination of them, which makes 260 days. And after the 260 days, it comes back to the first day. So this is their spiritual sacred calendar. And they have been following this calendar, these days, for 2,500 years approximately, from generation to generation, from daykeeper to daykeeper. And it's still alive today without any mistake, without any miscalculation or whatever. Of course, until Jose Arguelles, which came with Dream Spell calendar and the 13 moon calendar, which came up with a different count, which kind of confuses people. And actually, it's another big subject. I want to talk about it on another video. So let's skip it for today and stay with the authentic Tzolkin that the Mayas have been using and praising and making their ceremonies accordingly. And of course, they have another very famous calendar, the long count calendar, made up of 13 Baktuns, which supposedly ended on 21st of December in 2012. Well, the first fact that this calendar, Mayas are not so much, the actual Mayas, they don't know much about this calendar. It is explored by archaeologists. They find out some in ancient Mayan cities, these glyphs, like as you can see, and decode the meaning of them and understand that there's 13 Baktuns, and how long is one Baktun and how much is 13 Baktuns, which is about 5,125 years. And finding some other pieces of the puzzle, other pieces of information from another city, and in the end they come up with these correlations, like what does it mean, these dates, how do they interact with our Gregorian normal daily calendar. And they come up with the idea that it's not just idea, of course, it was a scientific hypothesis that the end of these 13 Baktuns was 21st of December 2012. But if you talk to Don Alejandro, like I watched in a documentary, I'm not sure if it was Sheet of the Ages or early version of Sheet of the Ages, or another interview done with him is called the Mayan New Dawn. Um, Mayan New Dawn. So he says that we don't know exactly this end date. Like the archaeologists came up and said, "This is the end of your calendar." Like they had no idea because they lost the tradition. They didn't follow these counts. They didn't. They were not so much alive with this 13 Baktun or the long count calendar. But they, of course, have some knowledge. Like Don Alejandro Oxla, he says that this is just the end of the sun. Like one sun is ending, so the sun will change, another sun will come. Of course, you can take it like not metaphorically. Okay, the sun will change, or like there's even he says things like there will be 3 days of darkness. How true this is, we don't know. If it happens, it will happen and we will witness. But basically, it's more metaphorical, at least in my understanding, that it's about consciousness change. He also talks about it, that we are coming to the end of this one of these suns, which is 13 Baktuns, which is about 5,125 years. So, and another one will start. It's not the end of the world, of course. It's not the catastrophic end of the world, like, oh, it's the Armageddon day and we all will die, like in this famous movie 2012. Nothing like that. But it's a very serious shift of consciousness, shift of time, because time and consciousness are very much connected in the Maya as well. Every time period has its own consciousness. So this is another huge subject, and I would love to talk about it as well, because it's the best description about it actually comes from Carl Johan Kaleman, a Swedish scientist that I read all his books, and I was actually giving lectures based on his books and presentations. So anyway, so this is another calendar, Mesoamerican, or the Mayan, to say it more correctly, long count calendar. So let's come to the more recent history a little bit, and there's a Guatemalan Civil War that happened between 1960 and 1996, which almost nobody heard about. Actually, I was in the 1990s, I was a teenager, and I was very well aware about, for example, the Bosing War. And I was very sad about it, and I was watching it on TV, but approximately the same time, the Guatemalan Civil War was going on for a much longer time, and it was about the Mayas as well, the Mayas and the Guatemalan state. And what happened is, unfortunately, is a very sad story. It's probably even worse than the Spanish invasion. That 200,000 people died, mostly Mayans, like indigenous people, gave their lives as a result of the civil war. So why I'm talking about these kind of things? Because there's a big gap of awareness about who the Mayas are, where they are coming from, what kind of history they have. Of course, some people might come up and talk about the sacrifications, like sacrifices, the human sacrifices they were doing, and how bad they were. Maybe they were. Also, that's true that in their classical era there were huge battles and huge armies, so they were quite violent as well. On the other hand, there's some part of their history that is, of course, very much connected with the rest of the indigenous cultures, like in Northern America, basically from Canada until Chile, like Quechuas in Chile, and a lot of nations, and of course, probably, hopefully, you're aware how they suffered, the Northern American tribes, from Sioux to Apache and Dakotas and Lakotas as well, and in Canada there's also a lot of tribes, in Mexico. Today it's still going on in Brazil, in Colombia, in Amazon forests. Like many Amazonian tribes are actually in very disadvantaged positions, and they would appreciate a lot of help. Some of them basically they need to be just totally isolated and totally disconnected, and by contacting them we are not making a good job. and it's forbidden to contact them. There are already some tribes like Yawanavas or Queens, and we have contact with them already. But the ones that they are not contacted should be kept this way, because the viruses and microbes that we have are very dangerous for them, because their immune system is not managed to deal with this. So this is just one thing. Like even 5 years ago with the Brazilian World Cup, this subject came up again, and on and off. I'm trying to watch the situation in Brazil. It's not very nice, of course, in other countries as well, in Peru, the history of Chile, as I mentioned, Quechuas suffered a lot. Bolivia, I just forgot. I'm sorry, their names or have been suffering. Like it's a long and wide story of oppression, um, homicide, genocides, and wars, civil wars, and they can't talk about it. Like, for example, in North America, like it's a common practice that Europeans they just give. It's for example in Australian Aboriginals, it's the same story that they are getting used to alcohol and drugs, so and they are very sensitive and they just lose their life completely, so they don't have power. This is how they are manipulated, and this is one way that they are manipulated and oppressed. So it's a very, very long and very sad story, and it's even beyond my capacity to deal with it. I'm not an indigenous person. I'm just somebody who's interested in them and want to read about them and connect with them and talk about these things. And so it's a huge story there. So Guatemalan Civil War is just one part, a very sad part of it. So when we come back to all this, um, the shift of the ages is about, on one hand, healing of the relationship between us and the Mother Earth, because on another hand, we are also, as a humanity, we are not dealing with our uh, mother, our Earth, very well, and a lot of problems are coming up, from global warming to toxicity and many things, climate changes, Fukushima and nuclear toxic waste, and basically it's not a good story, and endangered species and many stories are also there. So we need to heal this relationship. We need to at least start healing this relationship between humanity and Mother Earth, and start giving back and stop taking it all the time, and start giving back, and restorative design or permaculture, whatever, or prayers, not just prayers, of course. Like this relationship needs to be healed. The indigenous tribes of the world, they had a very good, beautiful connection with the Mother Earth, and we don't have it so much. Of course, indigenous people, they need a huge healing as well. As I just tried to describe to you, that their story is very sad and full of traumas, collected traumas, and many disadvantaged events happen to them, and many negativities. And we need to at least try to hold the space for this, like at least to be aware of it, to talk about it, and like who are these people and what they suffered for. And this, for example, this is one of the reasons, especially the Mayas, they are not very much open to Western people. Like they have already a prejudice, a fear towards people who are coming from Europe, from USA, even somebody from like me from Turkey. They have a fear that something will be abused, there will be misuse, abuse, and it's a collective fear, and it's very deep, and I understand it totally. And there have been abuses. For example, about Mayan calendar, this story with Jose Arguelles, he's taking their calendar and saying this is the Mayan calendar, and this is not what Mayas approve, unfortunately, and rightfully. Rightfully. Also, there's other stories today going on in the medicine world by abusing, almost to the level of abusing their wisdom traditions and their healing practices. It's another story as well. I don't want to go so deep into it. So basically, the Mayas say the shift of the ages. What Don Alejandro says is it's about healing this wound, and Mayas have a certain role in that, according to Don Alejandro. His full name is his full Spanish name is Don Alejandro Cirillo Perez Ohla, Oshla, sorry. And another name, his native name is Wakatel Utiw, which means the wandering wolf. He has a huge list of titles: head of the National Mayan Council of Elders. In Guatemala, in Mayan community, there's a council of elders. An elder is somebody who is spiritually mature, like who has went through the 52nd birthday. So he's older than, or she is older than 52 years old. And they create this council of elders, and they choose one of them as their representative, as their major or grand elder. So Don Alejandro is this person, and he's representing the whole Mayan community. He's the spiritual leader of the Mayan community. And his wife, Elizabeth Araujo, also a daykeeper, the follower of the Tzolkin, and an elder of the Mayan Council of Elders. I met him in Guatemala in 2011 when I was guiding a tour from Turkey to Guatemala, and she gave actually she traveled with us a couple of days, and she gave 5 lectures about the Mayan prophecies, the people of Maya, and even Tzolkin. And I was translating her. Here she speaks very well English. And so when we come back to Don Alejandro, her husband, so he says that the Mayas has a special role in the prophecy of eagle and condor, the reunion of the eagle and the condor. So what is eagle and the condor? The eagle is a bird that is metaphorically symbolizing the Northern America and Northern American people, indigenous people, and the condor is of the South America, and it's eagle is more representing the mind, is more strong, is more like the going in the first place and hunting, and the condor is like in one explanation of this mythology, it's it's the bird. Actually, it's true that eagle comes and hunts an animal and eats as much as like it's the best part, and condor later comes on and eats what is left over from the eagle. So, but it doesn't mean it's one of them is superior, the other is inferior. It's just the unity, because all beings are different, and they're all beautiful and valuable in their own way. So the eagle, if the eagle represents the mind, the condor represents the heart. So, and there was, when the Western people came from Europe, it was like a collapse. It was like a disconnection between the eagle and the condor. The connection between them got lost. And even physically, we can talk about the channel in Panama, which is in Mesoamerica and Central America. This channel has been built, and the land got disconnected. The Northern America and the Southern America, they were all one, connected to two continents. And they were one continent, so we would say, and they are divided by water because of this Panama channel. So even this is sometimes talked about in this prophecy of eagle and the condor. But the main point is the Western people came and they just disconnected all the tribes from each. Even in North America, you know, in USA there are so many tribes, but they are disconnected. And these days, the shift of the ages is about reunion of the eagle and the condor. So it's a time where all these indigenous tribes are connecting with each other again. And Mayan elder Don Alejandro Oshla, he has been organizing some of these reunions actually, and all of this is told in this beautiful movie, The Shift of the Ages. I would really love you recommend and fully suggest this movie, because you can see so many stories there. Like, it's a little bit longer than 1 hour. There's really amazing stories there. So basically, the shift of the ages is about this, the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, reunion of the eagle and the condor. The most important aspect or understanding of eagle and condor is that the eagle represents the mind and condor represents the heart. So it's about reunion of the mind and the heart. Like this is also a major shift. We don't have to just talk about indigenous people, non-indigenous people. Also, we need to connect our minds and hearts. So we are part of this story as well. Like, as much as you are aware of your heart and you connect your heart with your mind, you're helping this prophecy become real. So hopefully one day we will see all indigenous tribes together and strong again. And there's already some signs that sometimes this wound is being healed like dramatically, like in official places, like especially the last couple of years, this Dakota pipeline was a big cause for big protests, and all these Native American tribes in the USA, they came together, and some of them had very strong healings. Like, I don't remember the story exactly, I need to find it on YouTube, but one of them went to politician or court, institutional place, and he has been forgiven, or he was forgiving the white man or something like that. And also in Guatemala, it was about this time, like 7-8 years ago, the Guatemalan president that was elected was a direct disciple of Don Alejandro. So Don Alejandro Oxla was involved in the ceremony when he was starting his mission, inauguration. And also in Colombia, before that, there was the first indigenous president. So something is happening, but we need to be more aware, and we need to support this cause as much as we can. And especially the Mayan cause. For me, it's more connected, more about Mayas. And I need to tell you that Tato Alejandro is going through some health problems, and he's quite old now, and he's going through some health problems, and he also needs some help. He would appreciate some support as well. And at the end of this video, I will talk about it as well. So I want to just show you from this movie Shift of the Ages, take a little part, and let's hear what he's saying.
Quiere decir algo. Los del centro, escuchen mis hermanos, escúchame. Los del centro nos hacen unir el águila del norte con el cóndor del sur. Nos encontraremos con nuestros hermanos porque somos uno, como los dedos de la mano. Ayúdenme para que lleguen estos mensajes hasta los últimos rincones de la planeta Tierra. Ya no más guerra, porque el agua se está secando, el aire ya está contaminado, la tierra ya está enfermo, que nosotros estamos enfermos mentales ya. Somos unos hermanos, ricos y pobres, blancos y negros, indígenas, no indígenas, somos uno sobre la paz de la tierra.
So I would like to talk a little bit about what Don Alejandro says about end date. As I said, I don't remember where I watched this, maybe early version of Shift of the Ages or this other interview done by him, the New Dawn, Mayan New Dawn. He says that this date is lost to us. He's talking about the end of the long count. Like, all the scientist community, like these archaeologists argue that it was 21st of December 2012. But even in the time frame between 2009, 10, and until 12, I was, whenever I was giving a public speech about it, I would mostly mention this because people were so much attuned to 2012. Actually, there was another date in 2011 as well, coming from Kalaman. But what the leader of the Mayan community today, he is saying is that it could be 2015 or 2020 or another date. We don't know it because this is lost to us. They couldn't follow this tradition. But it's not so far, he's aware, and because we are in the era of contamination, as he was saying in his speech just now in this movie. Because animals are dying, there's no more birds, water is not clean, air is not clean, and our minds are not clean as well. So there's a huge contamination, and there's a need for huge purification and huge healing. So all this shift of the ages is all about that. And we don't know when it's exactly going to happen, but I would say it's happening. It's happening for those of you who have been aware of this. And we are creating it. We are healing ourselves, like healing our heart, healing our mind. And we are parts of the prophecy in this way. So it's a very nice movie. I would suggest you to watch because we can have the right perspective. Usually we are missing the right perspective. Okay, like many people have been talking about the shift of the ages, age of Aquarius, end of the Mayan calendar, transformation of consciousness, new age, like many concepts are there. But what indigenous people, authentically really spiritual people of this planet, especially the Mayans, especially their leader, has to say about it. So you can watch it freely. There's a link down here on Vimeo. So, and about his health situation, he has lungs problem. His lungs are not very good these days. He's recovering from some periods. He's getting better, but these days he has some. He needs some support. He doesn't need it actually, basically. But if you want to give from your heart something, my friend Joseph Giovi, who has been very much in good connection with Don Alejandro for really many years, and who's also one of the producers of the Shift of the Ages, he's collecting donations and he's sending directly to Tata Alejandro's family. So here's his PayPal address. If you need help, I can also assist this procedure and make you directly connected with Joseph. So this is all from me, and just to remember the last part and the last slide, the reunion of the Condor and the Eagle is about reunion of the heart and the mind. Longest journey you have to walk is from your mind to your heart, and that also is a reunion of the Condor and the Eagle. So take care, my brothers and sisters. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I know it should have been done much before, but time is right now for certain reasons. So if you have any questions, any comments, please write under this video and share with people, your friends, that you think they might be interested in this. And also let me know what other subjects I should talk about in the upcoming videos. I already mentioned few subjects in this video. So, but I'm open to your suggestions and questions as well. Until next time, take care and have a nice day.